During a fiery Fox News panel, Democratic strategist Jessica Tarlov warned President Donald Trump to end ICE raids or face impeachment, claiming most Americans are against these actions. But moments later, Trump delivered a powerful rebuttal that left the entire studio speechless. This video captures the full explosive exchange and the shocking silence that followed his response. The lights inside the Fox News studio were brighter than ever. Millions of Americans were glued to their TVs, waiting for the five to start. On the panel sat Greg Gutfeld, Jesse Waters, Dana Perino, Judge Jeanine Pirro, and Jessica Tarlov, who was known for her sharp tongue and constant attacks on President Donald J. Trump, now the 47th President of the United States. Tarlov leaned forward, her voice tense but loud. "Mr. Trump," she began, "most Americans are against these ICE raids. Families are being torn apart. Children cry at night because their parents don't come home from work. This is not what America stands for." The camera zoomed in on her face as she continued. "If you don't stop these raids, Mr. President, you'll face impeachment. The people have had enough." A hush fell over the studio. Even Greg and Jesse, usually quick with jokes, sat frozen. Social media exploded instantly. Hashtags like "shut down Trump" and "indice raids" began trending on X. The room was heavy. Tarlov's words hung in the air like smoke, sharp and bitter. Nobody had dared to say this so directly before, and everyone waited for Trump's response. Jessica Tarlov wasn't done. Her voice grew sharper, almost trembling with fury. "Let me be clear," she said. "The polls, NBC, New York Times, Siena, they all show it. 61% of Americans disapprove of your immigration policies. People see the human cost. They see hardworking families being dragged away at Home Depots and restaurants. They don't want Gestapo-style raids in their neighborhoods." She paused only to glare into the camera. "Trump talks about law and order, but really? He cheats. He cheats in marriage. He cheats in business. He even cheats at golf. He cheats the people he claims to serve. That is why Americans are rejecting him now." Gasps were heard in the studio. Even Jesse Waters raised his eyebrows, clearly stunned. This wasn't debate anymore. It was personal. Viewers across America shifted in their seats. Some clapped, while others fumed with anger. On X, conservatives called her a liar. "Fire Tarlov now," trended within minutes. Still she smirked, feeling she had the upper hand. But the silence that followed grew uncomfortable. Everyone turned toward Trump, waiting for the moment they knew was coming. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with determination. For a moment, President Donald J. Trump sat still, his hands folded. The silence was deafening. Then, slowly, he leaned toward the microphone. His voice was steady, yet carried the weight of a thunderstorm. "Folks," he began, looking straight into the camera, "nobody has taken more attacks, more lies, and more cheap shots than me. And leading the pack of fake news today? Jessica Tarlov. A Democrat mouthpiece pretending to be fair on Fox News." The studio froze. Tarlov's smirk faded. Trump continued, his tone rising. "She says most Americans hate ICE raids? Wrong. The real polls, Rasmussen, Trafalgar, show the opposite. Americans love when we protect our borders, when we stop gangs, drugs, and crime. Families aren't torn apart by ICE. Families are torn apart when Democrats let criminals in and look the other way." Gasps filled the room. On X, Trump's supporters erupted with cheers and applause emojis. Then he pointed directly at Jessica. "You talk about me cheating? No, Jessica. The only cheating happening is from Democrats, who use illegal immigrants to rig elections and destroy our country. You're not a centrist. You're a fraud." The audience fell silent. Nobody dared interrupt. The silence after Trump's words was like thunder without sound. Jessica Tarlov shifted in her chair, visibly unsettled. Her usual confidence seemed to falter, but she tried to regain control. "Mr. President," she stammered, You can't just dismiss data. These are credible polls. You cannot twist facts because it suits your narrative. But her voice lacked the sharpness it had before. The audience in the studio noticed. Greg Gutfeld leaned back with a smirk. Jesse Waters raised his hand as if to interject, but even they seemed cautious, something rare on live TV. Trump leaned forward again, steady and unshaken. His calmness contrasted her rising unease. "Jessica," he said, "facts aren't NBC headlines. Facts are Americans who bury loved ones because of fentanyl pouring across our borders. Facts are children hurt by gangs your policies protect. The truth doesn't need a poll. It speaks for itself." The audience gasped. On X, hashtags flipped within minutes. Herr Trump was right, Herr Fire Tarlov, and Protect America shot to the top. Patriots across the country began flooding the feed with emotional messages about lost family members, stolen jobs, and ruined communities. Inside the studio, tension cracked like glass. The power had shifted. Jessica tried one last push. "This is political theater," she declared, her voice trembling. "You're using raids to distract from your failures. You are tearing apart families to score political points. History will judge you as a cheater, a man who lies and manipulates to stay in power." But Trump didn't flinch. Instead, he smiled, a knowing smile that carried weight. "Political theater?" he repeated slowly. "No, Jessica. What's theater is your act on this network, pretending to be centrist while cashing checks from Democrat operatives who hate America first." Gasps echoed around the table. Jessica froze, her eyes darting nervously. Trump continued, "You talk about integrity, but your consulting firm took money from Soros-linked groups. $500,000 funneled through Democrat PACs. That's not journalism, Jessica. That's bribery, that's fraud, and the American people deserve to know." Greg nearly choked. Jesse muttered, "Oh boy," under his breath. The studio was dead silent. On X, the flood of posts grew into a tidal wave. "Is this true?" Tarlov exposed, Trump dropping receipts. The clip was already going viral, spreading like wildfire. Jessica's lips parted, but no words came out. For the first time, Jessica Tarlov looked vulnerable. Her usual smug smile was gone. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. Trump leaned closer, his voice low, but cutting through every corner of the studio. "Jessica, you've mocked me, called me a cheater, a criminal, even sick and unstable. You thought I wouldn't answer. But tonight, I will." He paused deliberately, locking eyes with her. "You think I cheat the American people? The only cheating happening is from Democrats like you, who use illegals to rig elections, who silence truth with fake polls, and who line their pockets with dirty money, while hard-working Americans suffer." The words hit like a hammer. Viewers at home felt chills. Some wiped tears, remembering lost loved ones, neighbors hurt by crime, or jobs taken away. X was overflowing with raw emotions. Patriots writing about how they finally felt heard, how the president's words gave them strength again. Jessica's hands trembled. She tried to steady herself by grasping the edge of the desk, but it was clear. Her confidence had shattered. The camera zoomed in on her pale face. For once, Jessica Tarlov had no reply. The silence was deafening. The studio felt heavier with every passing second. Jessica Tarlov blinked rapidly, trying to collect herself, but the damage was showing. Her hands trembled as she fiddled with her pen, desperate to break the silence. Trump, however, remained composed. His voice lowered, but it carried across the studio like thunder. "Jessica," he said firmly, "you talk about compassion, about humanity. But where is the compassion for the American mother who lost her son to fentanyl pushed by cartels? Where is the compassion for the father who buried his daughter after an MS-13 gang attack? Those families were torn apart forever, not by ICE, but by the criminals your side protects." The air snapped. Viewers at home felt their hearts sink. Many wiped away tears as social media filled with personal testimonies, stories of neighbors, children, and friends lost because of unchecked crime. Jessica bit her lip, visibly shaken. She had attacked Trump for years, but never before had his rebuttal landed with this much weight. The camera zoomed in on her face. She looked cornered, her arguments collapsing under the weight of raw truth. The silence in the studio was almost unbearable. Greg Gutfeld finally broke the stillness with a half-smile. "Well, Jessica, hard to argue with real lives," he muttered, his voice echoing the unease of the moment. Jesse Waters leaned in, nodding slowly, his eyes darting between Trump and Tarlov. But Trump didn't let up. He looked directly into the camera, speaking not to Jessica, but to the American people. The fake polls she cites? They're lies, folks. Real polls show Americans want stronger borders, safer streets, and justice for families destroyed by lawlessness. She won't tell you that, because she's paid not to. Viewers at home felt chills run through their bodies. Some clutched their chests, tears streaming as they replayed his words. On X, videos of Trump's response were being clipped in real time, captioned with phrases like, "This is leadership," and "Truth to power." Meanwhile, Jessica's shoulders slumped. Her usual fire was gone. She tried to clear her throat, but the words refused to come. Conservative audiences cheered. Even some independents watching live posted messages saying, "I didn't vote for Trump, but tonight, I see his heart." The tide was turning before everyone's eyes. Jessica finally attempted to interrupt. "That's not true," she began, her voice unsteady. But Trump cut her off with precision. "Not true? Jessica, your firm took $1.2 million from Soros-linked groups. You pushed fake polls, fake narratives, and called it analysis. That's fraud. That's corruption. And it's shameful." The audience gasped audibly this time. Greg shifted uncomfortably, while Jesse lowered his gaze. Trump continued. "You think you can lecture America about integrity while cashing checks from the very swamp creatures destroying this country? The people see it. They know the truth now." Jessica's face went pale. She shook her head, but no denial came. The silence screamed louder than any excuse could. On X, hashtags like Tarlov exposed and Truth over lies shot to the top. Clips of her stunned expression spread across every feed. Patriots cheered, while even critics admitted the moment was devastating. One viewer tweeted, "I lost my brother to drugs that came through the border. Tonight, Trump spoke for me. I'm crying." The nation was watching, and Jessica Tarlov, once confident and loud, was left speechless, her credibility hanging by a thread. The silence in the studio deepened, echoing across America. The weight of Trump's accusation pressed heavy in the studio. Jessica sat frozen, her lips parted but silent. Greg and Jesse exchanged glances, both aware that they were witnessing something unprecedented. Trump didn't blink. "For years, Jessica, you've mocked me. You've called me every name in the book: cheater, criminal, unstable. You even stooped so low as to call me unfit, sick, even disgusting things about children. But I'm still here. I'm still standing. And do you know why? Because the American people know the truth. They see through lies." The audience at home felt goosebumps. Clips of Trump's face, steady and calm, spread across X like wildfire. Hashtags like "Truth hits hard" and "Trump defends America" trended in real time. Meanwhile, in living rooms across the country, families grew emotional. Parents whispered to their children, "This is why we fight. This is why we stand." Some cried, remembering loved ones lost to drugs or violence. Back in the studio, Jessica shifted uncomfortably, her confidence now replaced by visible fear. Trump's words weren't just a rebuttal. They were a mirror reflecting her own hypocrisy. And everyone could see it. Trump's voice deepened, carrying a weight that shook even his critics. Families don't want lectures from fake polls. They want safety. They want security. They want their children alive tomorrow, and I will never apologize for protecting them." The words lingered in the air. Jessica's eyes darted downward, avoiding the cameras. The panel remained frozen. Greg muttered something under his breath, but the microphones didn't catch it. Then came the wave. Across the nation, people reacted emotionally. A mother in Ohio typed through tears, "My son was killed by an illegal drunk driver. Tonight, Trump spoke for me." A father in Texas posted, "We buried our daughter last year. He's the only one who understands." The response wasn't political anymore. It was human. Americans who rarely commented online were suddenly pouring their pain into public posts. Inside the studio, Jessica Tarlov's usual smirk was gone. Her hands trembled on the desk. The power dynamic had flipped entirely. Trump's gaze stayed locked on her, sharp as steel. "You may speak for elites, Jessica, but I speak for the people who've been ignored, mocked, and left behind. And they're watching tonight." Jessica opened her mouth as if to speak, but no sound came. The silence was louder than any argument she could have made. Trump didn't hesitate. "You want to talk about humanity? Where was your humanity when American parents buried their children? Where was your outrage when our veterans slept on the streets while Democrats gave hotel rooms to illegal migrants? Where was your compassion then?" Every word landed like a hammer strike. Jessica's face grew pale, her shoulders slumping under the weight. The reaction outside was electric. Viewers were in tears. Patriot rallies erupted online, with thousands commenting at once. "He's defending us." Finally someone says it. "God bless this man." Inside the studio, even Jesse Waters leaned back, wide-eyed, whispering, This is history." Jessica gripped the desk so tightly, her knuckles turned white. She had always been quick with insults. But now she sat in silence, powerless against the truth, unraveling her every claim. And in that silence, millions of Americans felt something stir. Hope, strength, and pride. The moment wasn't just about politics anymore. It was about survival, about truth, about love for a country worth protecting. Jessica's eyes flickered with panic. She gripped the table like it was the only thing keeping her upright. The bright studio lights, which once gave her confidence, now felt like a harsh spotlight exposing her weakness. Trump's voice filled the silence. "Jessica, you've built a career mocking me, mocking the people who voted for me. You call it analysis, but what it really is hatred. Hatred for the working men and women of this country." The words struck like lightning. Jessica shifted in her seat, trying to hide her unease, but the cameras caught every twitch. Greg Gutfeld looked down at his notes, silent for once. Jesse Waters shook his head slowly. Dana Perino crossed her arms, biting her lip. No one dared to defend Jessica. Meanwhile, on X, the clip was already exploding. Patriots posted side-by-side shots, Jessica's trembling hands versus Trump's steady stare. Memes labeled her exposed. Others shared heartbreaking stories of loved ones lost to crime, each message echoing Trump's point. In homes across America, viewers wept. They weren't watching politics anymore. They were watching truth collide with lies. Jessica's mask of confidence had shattered, and everyone could see it. The studio was so quiet, you could hear the hum of the lights. Millions watching at home leaned closer to their screens, unable to look away. Trump broke the silence. "You say most Americans disapprove of ICE raids, but Jessica, let me ask, did you ask the mother who buried her child after a gang murder? Did you ask the father who worked 2 jobs only to lose his son to fentanyl? Because I did. And they begged me not to stop. They begged me to keep fighting." Jessica's lips trembled. For once, she couldn't fire back. Tears welled in the eyes of some in the live studio audience. One woman in the back whispered, "He's right." The cameras didn't catch it, but the room felt it. On social media, testimonies poured in. Trump just spoke my story. I lost my nephew. Tonight I feel heard. Jessica looked small in her chair. Her earlier boldness had evaporated, leaving only silence. Trump's words weren't just a rebuttal. They were a rallying cry, spoken for every forgotten American family. And in that silence, Jessica's credibility collapsed like a house of cards. Trump leaned closer, his voice softer now, but every word cut deeper. You said I'm a cheater, Jessica. But the truth is, I never cheated the people. I fought for them when no one else would. I gave up my comfortable life to stand here, taking hit after hit. For them. For America. The studio audience gasped. Even Greg's eyes glistened with emotion. Trump's voice broke slightly, not from weakness, but from sincerity. I think of the soldiers I've met, the parents who cried in my arms after losing children to crime or drugs. I promised them I wouldn't back down. And I won't. Not for you. Not for the Democrats. Not for anyone who tries to silence the truth. Jessica stared blankly, her usual sharpness gone. Her face said it all. She was beaten, not by insults, but by truth too powerful to deny. Viewers at home were overcome with emotion. Tears streamed as they watched a president fight not with anger, but with love for his country. Posts flooded X. I'm crying. This is why we stand with Trump. The silence that followed was heavy, sacred almost. Trump had delivered an emotional blow that no one saw coming. Jessica's breathing grew shallow. She tried to sit taller, but her voice betrayed her. That's not accurate, she stammered, but the words lacked strength. Trump leaned in, unshaken. Jessica, America is tired of excuses. They're tired of liars in fancy suits pretending to care, while their policies destroy families. You can't spin this anymore. People see through it. The silence that followed was crushing. Even the crew behind the cameras froze, aware that something historic was unfolding live. Greg rubbed his forehead nervously. Jesse shifted in his seat, whispering to Dana, "She's finished." Dana, usually calm, remained speechless. On X, posts came in by the second. Trump just obliterated her. This is the truth we've been waiting to hear. One viral clip showed Jessica's trembling hands zoomed in beside Trump's steady, calm expression. In homes across the country, tears flowed freely. Families felt as though Trump was speaking directly to them. A woman in Arizona posted, "He spoke for my family tonight. I lost my brother, and now I feel seen." Jessica's face grew pale. Her confidence had cracked wide open, and the nation could see it. Jessica tried again, forcing out words. "President Trump, you are using emotion to cover failure. People are scared." Trump cut her off instantly, his voice sharp yet steady. "People are scared because of failed leaders like you. They're scared because you side with criminals instead of victims. Scared because Democrats sell lies while Americans bury their children. That's the truth, Jessica." Her voice broke. For the first time on national television, Jessica Tarlov looked like she might cry. Her lips quivered, her eyes glassy. She quickly looked down, trying to hide, but the cameras caught it. The reaction was overwhelming. Social media exploded with clips of Jessica's breaking voice. Patriots flooded timelines. She couldn't handle the truth. Trump spoke with facts, and she folded. Even viewers who weren't Trump supporters admitted the moment was powerful. Posts read, "I don't like him, but he crushed her tonight." That was raw. In the studio, the air grew unbearably heavy. Greg cleared his throat, but stayed silent. Jesse leaned back, whispering, "This is bigger than TV. This is history." Jessica's mask was gone. Her breaking voice told the nation she had lost. Trump leaned closer, speaking not to Jessica now, but directly into the camera. His tone softened, carrying more emotion than fire. America, I know you're hurting. I've held mothers who lost their kids. I've looked into the eyes of fathers broken by grief, and I promised them one thing. I would never stop fighting for them. Not for politics, not for polls, but for them. The studio fell completely silent. No one dared interrupt. Across the country, living rooms turned into sacred spaces. Families cried together, feeling his words pierce through the noise of politics. A man in Michigan posted, "I lost my nephew last year. Trump just spoke to me like no president ever has. I'm crying." Jessica sat frozen, her face pale, eyes wide. She knew she couldn't compete with that kind of truth. No insult, no poll, no attack could undo what had just been said. On X, hashtags exploded. Trump for the people. Truth over lies. We stand with Trump. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was filled with emotion, with pain, and with hope. For once, even Trump's critics had no words. Jessica Tarlov had been silenced. Jessica's posture slumped. The sharp, biting tone she carried into the debate had completely vanished. She attempted a weak smile, but the cameras caught the nervous twitch of her lips. Trump, without raising his voice, spoke firmly. "Jessica, you've spent years throwing insults at me. Cheater, criminal, unfit. But tonight, you don't look so confident. You look like someone caught in her own lies." Her eyes darted around the studio. Greg avoided her gaze. Jesse tapped his pen, uneasy. Dana stared at her notes, unwilling to intervene. The audience at home felt it. This wasn't just a debate anymore. It was a reckoning. Clips began spreading across X in real time. Jessica looking down, Trump staring at her with calm authority. One caption read, "History unfolding. She finally met her match." Viewers wrote heartfelt comments. "I'm crying. Trump is speaking for my family tonight." Another, "He gave me courage to believe again." Jessica's confidence collapsed, like a crumbling wall, brick by brick. The woman who once mocked Trump daily now struggled to hold herself together under his gaze. And America watched, stunned. The set of the five had never been this quiet. Usually, debates were loud, filled with laughter or shouting. But tonight, silence reigned. Jessica sat frozen, her notes trembling in her hands. The other co-hosts hesitated, unsure whether to rescue her or let the moment unfold. Trump leaned forward, his words steady. "This isn't about me. It's about every American who deserves safety in their own neighborhood. ICE raids are not cruelty. They are protection. Protection for the families who want their kids safe from gangs, drugs, and violence. That's what the Democrats don't tell you." The studio air grew heavier. Even viewers at home described the moment as eerily holy. On social media, clips of Trump's words exploded. Protection, not politics. Trump truth, silencing lies, trended globally. Jessica attempted to speak but only managed, I disagree," before her voice cracked again. The audience online could see it plainly. She was broken, unable to mount a comeback. The silence after Trump's words was louder than any argument, and the silence itself told the story. He had won. Outside the studio, America was on fire with reaction. Phones buzzed non-stop. Families gathered around TVs. Soldiers in barracks watched with pride. Farmers in their kitchens paused dinner to listen. One trucker recorded a video with tears streaming down his face. "That man, our president, just defended us. Finally, someone's fighting for us." The clip went viral, reaching millions. In living rooms across the country, people cried as they replayed Trump's words. He isn't just talking politics, he's talking about us. Meanwhile, Jessica's silence became the biggest headline. Media outlets scrambled. Tarlov frozen on live TV. Trump's words leave panel speechless. Even critics couldn't deny it. A liberal commentator tweeted, "I don't like Trump, but tonight was powerful." Tarlov had no answer. Back inside the studio, Trump's expression softened. "This isn't about embarrassing anyone. This is about saving America," he said, his voice filled with emotion. Viewers wept. Many said they felt as though Trump was speaking straight into their hearts. The moment was no longer just television. It was history in motion. And America knew it. By now, Jessica's silence was trending everywhere. Clips of her wide eyes and trembling lips flooded X, TikTok, and Instagram. One viral meme read, "When you bet against Trump and lose live on air." Trump didn't gloat. Instead, he folded his hands and looked directly into the camera. "It's not about humiliating someone. It's about truth. And America deserves truth." The audience at home could feel it, the sharp contrast between Jessica's collapse and Trump's steady presence. Even Greg, usually quick with jokes, whispered, "This is bigger than television." Fox's producers scrambled in the control room. Should they cut to commercial? Should they redirect? But the truth was clear. If they pulled away, they'd be accused of shielding Jessica. If they stayed, her unraveling would be broadcast to millions. Online, conservatives celebrated, but even independents chimed in. Trump destroyed her with facts, not insults. Jessica looked down at her papers, but the words blurred. She had no way back. Her humiliation was spreading faster than any script she had ever prepared. And America was watching it live. Trump leaned forward, his voice lowering, steady and full of weight. "Jessica, you talk about humanity. But where was humanity when angel families buried their children? Where was humanity when fentanyl killed 100,000 Americans in a single year? Where was humanity for the mother who begged for justice while politicians like you protected the criminals?" The studio fell into dead silence. No coughs, no shuffling papers, no laughter. Just silence. Jessica blinked rapidly, holding back tears. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Trump's voice softened even further. "I've held their hands. I've seen their tears. I've promised them America won't forget them. And no poll, no pundit, no talking head will ever make me break that promise." Across the nation, hearts broke. A father in Ohio wrote, "I lost my son. Tonight, Trump gave me hope." A mother in Florida posted, "I cried with him. He sees us. He really does." Even critics admitted it. Trump had reached beyond politics. He had touched something raw, something human. Jessica sat frozen, unable to answer, and America wept. The weight of Trump's words was unbearable. Dana dabbed her eyes discreetly with a tissue. Jessie looked down, unusually quiet. Even Greg, the comedian of the group, leaned back with a rare, solemn face. The cameras caught the stillness. Co-hosts unable to move, Jessica utterly silenced, and Trump sitting calm, resolute. Inside living rooms, families clutched each other. In diners, truck stops, and military bases, people who normally shouted at screens now sat in silence, tears streaking their faces. On X, hashtags boomed. On America Weeps, Truth Spoken, Icy Stands. Clips of Trump's trembling but steady voice played on repeat. Jessica whispered faintly, This isn't fair." But even her co-host didn't rush to defend her. Everyone knew the moment was no longer about her. It was about the message that had pierced through politics and reached the nation's soul. Trump leaned back slowly, nodding. "Sometimes the truth hurts, Jessica, but America deserves it." The silence afterward felt sacred, and millions at home whispered the same thing to their screens. "Thank you, Mr. President." Inside the Fox News control room, producers scrambled. Red lights blinked, phones rang, and frantic whispers filled the air. One producer muttered, "Do we cut to commercial? She looks destroyed." Another shook his head. If we cut now, everyone will know we're protecting her. That'll be worse. Screens showed Jessica staring at her papers, unmoving, while Trump remained steady, speaking directly to America. It wasn't just a segment anymore. It was history unfolding live. Executives at Fox texted one another furiously. Ratings were skyrocketing, but so was backlash online. Thousands of viewers were demanding Tarlov's removal in real time. One trending hashtag read, "Damn, fire Tarlov now." "Let it roll," a senior producer finally said. "If we interrupt, we look guilty. If we let it run, at least we're not censoring." Behind the glass, they knew what millions were already realizing. Trump had just turned their own stage into his. Jessica was unraveling in front of America, and there was no saving her. Just outside the Fox building, a crowd had gathered, pressed against barricades. Some had MAGA hats. Some just held American flags. Others were ordinary New Yorkers who had stumbled onto the moment and decided to stay. The big screens outside displayed the live broadcast. When Trump spoke of families broken by fentanyl and crime, mothers in the crowd openly wept. One woman clutched a picture of her son and whispered, "He gets it. Finally, someone gets it." Truck drivers honked their horns in unison as the words echoed. ICE raids are not cruelty, they are protection. Chants broke out, "USA, USA," and "Trump, Trump," as passers-by stopped to film the atmosphere. Clips hit social media instantly, captioned, "Even outside Fox, people are crying." Jessica's frozen image on the screen became a symbol of collapse, while Trump's calm presence became a symbol of resolve. Inside, she sat in silence. Outside, thousands lifted their voices. It was no longer just television. It was a movement happening in real time. Back in the studio, Trump's eyes narrowed slightly, his voice deepening. "Jessica, you've accused me of every crime, every insult, even mocked me personally. But let me tell you something. When you mock me, you're mocking every hard-working American who stands behind me." The words hit like thunder. He continued, voice breaking with emotion. "I don't stand here for myself. I stand for the farmer who can't afford to lose his crops to illegal labor. I stand for the soldier waiting on a paycheck during a shutdown caused by Democrats. I stand for the mothers and fathers burying children taken by drugs pouring over our border. You want me to stop ICE raids? I will never stop fighting for them. Never." The panel sat frozen. Jessica's eyes glistened. She shifted in her chair, but still said nothing. At that moment, the silence was absolute. And across America, millions of people, many who had doubted, many who had wavered, broke into tears. For once, politics vanished. What remained was raw truth. The studio air felt heavy. Even Greg Gutfeld and Jesse Waters, usually quick with sharp quips, sat quietly, eyes locked on Trump. The camera zoomed in on Jessica Tarlov, her hands trembling slightly as she tried to shuffle her papers. But her words had dried up. Trump leaned forward, speaking not just to her, but to every American watching. "Jessica says most Americans are against ICE raids. Let me ask you this. When your son is killed by fentanyl, when your daughter can't walk home safely because gangs roam free, are you against ICE then? Or are you praying that we had done more?" His voice broke, just enough to show it wasn't rehearsed. It was raw, real. Millions at home felt it like a knife to the heart. In living rooms across America, people who had lost loved ones sat frozen, tears streaming. This wasn't politics anymore. It was pain, truth, and hope colliding live on television. For the first time, Jessica looked down, unable to face the weight of his words. The silence was louder than any applause. Outside, the crowd swelled into the thousands. Cars stopped in the street, drivers blasting horns in rhythm to chants of "USA, USA." Some waved flags, others just stood with their hands over their hearts, watching Trump on the big screens. At a diner in Pennsylvania, a waitress put down her tray and cried, whispering, "He's fighting for us." At a VFW hall in Texas, veterans rose to their feet, saluting the screen. One old Marine said through tears, "That's my president. He never gave up on us." The wave of emotion stretched from living rooms to rallies, from churches to small towns. Social media exploded with hashtags. Trump Truth, ICE for America, Tarlov exposed. Millions of comments poured in, stories of families lost, jobs stolen, dreams crushed, all thanking Trump for speaking the truth no one else dared. Jessica sat cornered, shrinking into her chair, her once confident smirk erased. Trump had not only silenced her, he had united a country, if only for that moment, in tears of both grief and pride. Trump's voice deepened for the closing strike. He pointed directly at Jessica, then at the camera. "You see, folks, Jessica isn't really attacking me. She's attacking you, the American people. She's attacking your safety, your jobs, your families. But I'll tell you this, as long as I'm President of the United States, ICE raids will continue, because I'm not here to please fake polls or corrupt elites. I'm here to protect the American people, no matter what it costs me. That's the promise I made, and I'll never break it." The studio fell into stunned silence. Even Jessica Tarlov, for once, said nothing. Outside, the crowd erupted into cheers so loud they shook the block. Online, clips spread like wildfire. Millions watching, millions crying, millions believing again. And in that unforgettable moment, Donald J. Trump stood taller than ever before, not just as the 47th president, but as a defender of every American heart. Friends, if this moment touched your heart, the way it touched millions across America, don't just watch, be part of it. Smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And make sure you subscribe so you never miss the truth they don't want you to see. And if you want to go deeper, join our membership to unlock exclusive features and stand shoulder to shoulder with patriots across this nation. Together, we make history. Together, we make America great again.